Hey Passport fam, did you just get your InBody scan done and you over here looking at your sheet clueless? You see a bunch of numbers but don't know what the heck it means? Don't worry, I'm here for you. I'm here to make it plain, simple, and break it down for you. So let's get into it. Okay, technical difficulties here. Okay, we have our body composition analysis up first. So up first we have total body water, and that can be broken down even further into water inside and outside your cell. We will touch base on this a little bit later, so don't worry about that. Up next we have our fat-free mass. This is muscle plus water. And then we have our final weight here. That'll be muscle plus water plus fat, okay? And it breaks it down into pounds, what each of those total out to be. Below that on your sheet, we have our muscle fat analysis, and you can see it's broken down into weight, skeletal muscle mass, and body fat mass. I want you to take a look at the top here at these 3 red circles. We can see the arrows. The down arrow means below normal when looking at your results. This dash means the normal range, and the up arrow means above average or above normal. Okay, so we can see here for my weight is right in that normal range, looking pretty good there. And we can see skeletal muscle is just above average or above normal. That is good. I want your muscle to be above average. That's what we need. And then we have our body fat mass. This should be in the normal range as well. Alright, now if I were to connect the tail ends of each of these, I would get almost a D shape. Looking at the top right corner of my screen here, you can see if I connected those dots, that D shape that I'm talking about. If you look in your app, or if you're connecting the dots and you have a C shape or an I shape, that means we got some work to do, okay? And I want your muscle mass to be the highest metric on here. That is how we're going to get that D shape. High muscle and lower body fat and lower weight. Okay, so if you're doing everything right in Passport, that's going to happen naturally. There are 2 main ways that you can boost your muscle. 1, getting in enough protein. If you don't know how much protein to consume, go talk to your coach. And 2 is lifting heavy in the gym. We must provide our muscles with a challenging weight when we're working out. Because if we're not providing enough resistance, those muscles aren't going to change or rebuild. Up next, we have our obesity analysis. We have our BMI here, body mass index, and we have our percent body fats. Looking at BMI, I don't use this as a gauge of how healthy anyone is. It only factors in height and weight. And you can have a good BMI but be unhealthy. Okay, and BMI is a little bit different for us, people of color, because our muscle tends to be a lot higher, and that can shift the BMI into like a higher range than it typically is. So don't pay attention to BMI, but I do want you to pay attention to this percent body fat. We can see here that my body fat is right at 23%, so we're in a good range. If you don't know a healthy percent to be at, for women, it's going to be 18 to 28%. And for men, it's going to be 10 to 20%. So if you're not there yet, we got some work to do, okay? And body fat comes down to what we're putting in our body, coming down to nutrition. So again, talk to your coach if you are clueless about that, okay? We're here to help. Up next, we have our segmental lean analysis. When you see segmental lean, only think muscle, okay? It's a big word that just means muscle, okay? So it's broken down our muscle into segments. So I can see here where my muscle is distributed from my arms, my trunk, which is like your torso, and my legs, left and right. Now here we can connect the dots, again, like we did on our other analysis, to see where you're carrying the most muscle at. So we can see here that I'm carrying most of my muscle in my upper body in comparison to my lower body. So even though my legs are in the normal range, if I wanted to focus on balancing and getting a nice balanced look to my physique, I would be focusing on glute and legs. Now, if you're in the same boat as me and need to build your glutes and legs, go ahead and grab my glute guide. I have digital copies and physical copies. A little shameless plug there, but I'm here to help you as well. Alright, up next we have our ECW, which is extracellular water, and TBW. I hope I didn't lose you. Total body water. I hope I didn't lose y'all, okay? This just means water in the body, okay? Now, water in the body, this is important because it's showing us the inflammation and water retention, okay? Ideally, you should be at a 0.36 or 0.39. Anything higher is indicating we have some swelling in the body or poor recovery or a high sodium intake. So just something to be mindful of when looking at that water. Ankle phase, we can see here in the circle to the right. This is a marker of cellular health and recovery, which is important when you're working out because you need to have healthy cells, and those cells have to be able to recover because we're quite literally breaking down our muscles and rebuilding them. So we need to have a good ankle phase in order to do this effectively. As far as what your ankle phase number should be, a 5 is decent. However, 6 and higher is even better, especially when you're working out with us. We train out like athletes, so I need y'all to have a higher ankle phase to keep up with everything, you know? But of course, healthy lifestyle changes will be the only thing that changes this number for us, okay? And to just give you a little bit of reference, most athletes are at a 7 or an 8, okay? So if you're below a 5, we got some work to do, okay? Now at the very bottom of your page, we have your body composition history. These aren't my results, so if the numbers look off, that's why. But it maps out your data here, so you can see how you're trending. Are we going in the right direction, or do we need to make some changes? And this breaks it down for weight, skeletal muscle mass, percent body fat, and that water that we talked about as well. If you look at the top right of your page, you'll see your InBody score. Technically, this score is out of 100. However, some people have gotten over 100. Our very own Coach D. How do you get over 100? Exceptional muscle mass. All right, I'm going to move me out of that corner there so you can see these numbers. As far as looking at your number in comparison to where you should be, if we look at 70 or below, this indicates we have a high fat, low muscle, and possibly an imbalance in the body. If you're in the 70 to 79 range, this is fair, it's okay, but there is still some room for improvement with muscle and fat. 80 to 89, this is good, slightly above average, okay? This is where I fall into, okay? And then we have 90 to 100, this is excellent, meaning you have high muscle, low fat, and your body's nice and balanced, okay? So if your number is below 70, we got some work to do, and that's okay, because you're in Passport and you're making the right changes already. So that number's only going to go up. Alright? Oops, too far. Okay, up next we have visceral fat. What is visceral fat? Visceral fat is fat around your vital organs. So it's going to be under your abdomen muscles, but around those vital organs. And these are essential because they're supposed to be protecting those organs. But like anything, too much of any good thing can be a bad thing. Same thing for visceral fat. If you have too much visceral fat, they're no longer just protecting. At that point, they almost poison some of those organs. And we do not want that. Okay? So as far as a good number to be at any age, you should be at 100 or below for your visceral fat. We can see mine here, well below 100. If you're above 100, we got some work to do, and that's it. Now, as far as what an elevated visceral fat level means, it's strongly linked to insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, various cardiovascular diseases. So we're looking at high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and even a risk for heart attack. We don't want that. Fatty liver disease, an increase of inflammation overall, which can increase the risk of various cancers and chronic illnesses. We don't want that either. So let's keep an eye on that visceral fat. If you're above 100, we got some work to do. Alright. Up next, we have our body fat and fat-free mass control. This is basically the scale's recommendation based off the numbers, what it thinks you should do. So if you needed to lose some fat, it will let you know here at the top, you need to lose this much fat. And if you need to gain muscle or whatever, it'll also tell you to gain muscle as well. So if you don't have a goal, this is a great starting point, whatever it recommends. And some people might have a daunting number like 30 pounds or 40 pounds, and that's okay. We're going to just break it into smaller goals. We're going to focus on the first 5 pounds, then the next 10 pounds, okay? So we're going to get to that 30, but it doesn't happen overnight, okay? Up next, we have our segmental lean analysis. Segmental fat analysis. And this is same as the segmental lean with our muscle. It's telling us where our fat is distributed in our body. We can see here, if we connect the tail ends here, that my trunk is carrying most of the fat in my body. That's pretty normal for most people, okay? But if we look at my arms and my legs, you can see one might have a little bit more than the other. But overall, they're pretty symmetrical as far as arms versus legs. And below that, we have our research parameters. The only metric here I want you to focus on is the basal metabolic rate. And this is basically how many calories your body burns without doing any working out. So this is a good baseline. We don't typically calorie count at Passport, but if this is a metric that you're using to help with your nutrition, this gives you a great baseline of where to start, okay? So if you're going into a bulk, meaning you're eating a little bit more to gain more muscle, or you're going into a cut, which means you're in a calorie deficit, like slightly lower in calories, so that you can lose fat. This gives you a great baseline. And if you are doing either one of those, I recommend 200 more or less, depending on which direction you want to go. The rest of these metrics we don't typically use at Passport. And then we have our whole body angle phase. So going back to angle phase, how healthy your cells are and how well they can recover. You can see it gives us that number again as far as overall angle phase, but then it breaks it down further into right arm, left arm, our trunk, right leg, and left leg. So you can see how the cells are doing in each part of your body. We don't really do anything with that, but it's just extra information for you to know. Now, you should already have your InBody app downloaded. If not, this is what the app looks like. You're going to type in InBody in your app store and go ahead and download it, create your profile. Your phone number is going to be how your information, your data is sent to your app so that you can always look back at it, see how you're trending, see how you're tracking, and to look at all of the numbers I went through, because I went through the PDF version. In your app is under details and it's going to give you a full breakdown. I love the app because for most areas you can tap on that area if you don't know what it means, and it will give you an explanation of what it is. And it might even track out your data for some of them. So you can see again how you're trending. This app is really exciting. You can connect your Apple Watch or rings to it. So yeah, but that concludes our InBody scan. Congratulations, you made it to the end. You are an InBody Pro. So go ahead and take a look at your numbers. And if you have any questions, please ask your coach at your next class. Thank you. See you guys.